Hi, everyone. I'm Cecilia Curtis, and I want to welcome you to the Friendship Tour podcast, where we talk about the true gift of friendship with some of my truest friends. We talk about making friends and keeping friends and everything in between. Today's guest is Michelle Dallas from Natchitoches, Louisiana, but she now lives in Anchorage, Alaska. Michelle is a nurse practitioner, an entrepreneur, a devoted wife and mother, and an amazing friend. But again, she lives in Alaska, and I am still in California. So we had to figure out what our friendship would look like when she moved away. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, Cecilia, how are you, my friend? It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you too. And I'm doing great. I'm so happy you're here. You look amazing. I'm excited to talk to you. So,
Yes, it
hey.
is a cold and snowy day here in Anchorage, Alaska. It
Oh,
is 16 degrees and it's supposed to be
16 as in 1 6.
as in 1 6. It's
Wow.
supposed to be down to 5 next week, so it's nice and cold, but nonetheless, it's a great day.
It is a great day. I was a little bit complaining yesterday because it was 60 degrees, 60. And I had to put on one of my little puffy vests, and
Oh,
all the parents huddled together at the soccer game and talked about it being cold. So I will hold my complaints for the future because we don't go down into the teens
yeah, it's
here
been
in
cold. I
California.
think it's going to be a brutal winter, but
Yeah. Yeah.
nonetheless, we're prepared.
You're prepared. You're always prepared. You're always prepared. So I have to tell you this up front. I don't know if I've ever told you, but I tell Brian all the time. Do you know that you're the friend I talk to the most on the phone?
I did not know that.
Yes, you
I
are.
feel so special. I really do.
It's true. And Brian's always like, have you talked to Michelle? Did you call Michelle? Has Michelle called you? So he knows that. And he's always making sure that we're still talking on the phone. But yeah, I have friends. A lot of us text, but I don't talk to anyone quite as much as I talk to you on the phone. So you're very, very special to me. You are.
Well, thank you, Cecilia. And it goes both ways. The friendship goes both ways.
You're my girl. You know that.
Yes.
Do you remember when we met or how we met or where we met?
Do remember. So at the time, we were a military family. My husband, Tori, was active duty Air Force, and we had just recently PCS from San Antonio, Texas to Fairfield, California, Travis Air Force Base. It was June of 2018, and our husbands happened to be working at the hospital together in a case at the same time. And during that case, apparently they were the only two in the operating room talking because they talked about everything. And
Yes.
within that conversation, they decided that they were going to schedule a family date for us to all meet up. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh, this is great. So I remember Tori, my husband, came home and he said, "Oh, Michelle, I met this doc today, and he seems like a cool brother." That's what he said. He seems like a cool dude. And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, do they have any kids?" And he said, "Yes, they have two kids." He said, "Two kids. They have a son who's probably about the same age as Mason. I think like a year, maybe a year and a half. And his wife just had a baby a couple months ago." That's what Tori said. And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, this sounds pretty promising." And then he said, "But he's been in the military a long time, and he's a lieutenant colonel in the military.
What does that mean?
So you have
Okay.
to have to watch them." That's what he said. He said, "So we're going to go over to their house in a couple days, but you got to make sure you're on your best behavior because you can't jeopardize my military career." That's what he
Oh,
said.
geez.
So I'm like, "Okay, Tori." So he goes through this long list of things that I can't do and what I can do. So
Okay.
eventually I'm like, "Okay, so I can't say this, this, or this, but I can do this, this, or this." Okay. So then I said, "Well, Tori, what should we bring over for the dinner?" And he said, "Oh, Brian said, don't worry about it. Just show up." And I'm thinking, just show up. I don't need to bring anything. So here we are. Show up. We ring the doorbell. And I will never, ever forget. I'm thinking this is about to be some kind of formal dinner. Brian opens the door, very relaxed and very calm.
Uh-huh.
And I remember he had on this white t shirt with these black, like, lounge pants. Look down, he had on these big, thick, like, white athletic socks with, like, some house sandals, and I immediately thought, "Whew, this is not gonna be as formal as I was thinking."
Oh my
And
gosh.
then I remember looking at him thinking, "It does not look like he's been getting ready for Sunday dinner. Seems like he's been relaxing."
Yeah, yeah,
Then I looked at Cecilia, and she was beautiful as always, had on this blue jean skirt with this blue shirt. Mind you, my husband said, "Oh, she had a baby a couple months ago."
mhm.
And I looked at you, Cecilia, and I was like, "She's pregnant, and she's due any day pregnant." And I can't
Do any
believe our
day.
husbands just planned this date for us to all meet up, and his wife is
Yeah,
pregnant. So, nonetheless, it was a beautiful Sunday dinner. Cecilia had this beautiful course of food that just reminded me of home and reminded me of just that Southern hospitality. It was very informal, and it was the start of a beautiful family friendship, not only
yeah.
between Cecilia and I, but between our husbands and then also our kids.
That's so funny because when you started the story and you said I had just had a baby, I was like, now Michelle knows I was pregnant when she met me. So I didn't know that it had been communicated to you that I had just had a baby. But Brian never comes home and says, I want you to meet this person. You know, he's so laid back and cool, but he came home from work like, I met this cool dude. I want to have them over. And I was like, I don't. I'm pregnant. I don't want to do any of this. And he was like, no, 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 it'll be cool. But I knew if we didn't do it then, it was going to be a while because I was due like any day.
Mhm.
Um, it wasn't any day, it was like 3 weeks later. But I knew if we didn't do it then, it was probably going to be months later. So you guys came over and we all just clicked immediately. And like you said, it was the beginning of a great friendship.
And I remember Brian said not to bring anything, and I was thinking, I can't show up empty-handed, so I'm gonna pick up a bottle of wine. So, of
Yeah.
course, when I saw that you were pregnant, I was thinking, well, she's not even gonna be able to drink this wine, and I'm not gonna drink it either because I had just found out we were expecting our second child. So our
Yeah.
husband enjoyed the wine.
They did. They enjoyed it, and we did have sparkling cider. I remember we had some sparkling cider,
Yeah,
but
we
we
did.
didn't have the wine.
I remember that.
Do you have a favorite? We've had so many fun family moments. Do you have a favorite friendship like you and me or family moment together?
I do. So my favorite moment is probably exactly 2 years after we met. It was during that time when we were getting ready to move to Anchorage, Alaska, and it was probably that last week and a half before were leaving. And during that time, I remember we just kept planning different family outings for our families to hang together one more time. I
Yeah.
remember we went over to your guys' house, and I think we had like a barbecue. We were outside, had water play. And then the next time we came over, it was like a Friday night, and we had pizza up in your game room, and it was very kind of informal, kind of laid back. And then the last time, the official last time that we saw each other, you had messaged that, hey, we were going to this park. Would you guys like to kind of meet up? And we met up at a park, and, the kids were playing. We were out there for hours, and it was eventually, that dreaded, okay, it's time to go. And this was officially going to be our last time seeing each other because
Yeah.
our flight was leaving the next day. So this was June of 2020. And I always tell people it felt like what I call a deployment hug. And for
Yeah.
anyone who's ever had any affiliation with the military, a
Yeah.
deployment hug is the tightest hug that you will ever give someone when they leave for deployment and when they come home from deployment. And I remember I gave you a deployment hug, a tight, tight hug. And I was like, oh, Cecilia, I'm so glad our paths connected. And I'm so
Yeah.
glad we met each other. And you got a friend for life. Like, we in this together. And I just remember it was a time that we were, it was so much unknown. It was June of 2020. It was in the midst of the pandemic. We were moving to a new city. We were losing the military. We were separating from the military, and we were leaving family and just going to what felt like a far, far away land. And it was so much unknown. And you were that friend, and I had to give you that deployment hug. So that was one of my what I call kind of bittersweet memories.
Yeah. I felt teary eyed with you describing that because That's a perfect way to describe it. It was a deployment hug. I felt like the future of our relationship was somewhat unknown too. Like, what
Mm.
was that going to look like when you left? But that was really special. One of my favorite moments was when we finally saw each other again. What, a couple years ago? So your husband was coming back to California for work, and it was the summer, and it was my second son's birthday week, and y'all came for your husband's job, but as far as my son was concerned, the whole world came to celebrate him. It was just a fun week. Another friend, B and her husband came. Hi, B. They all came, and we just had a great family time reuniting. And yeah, it was so sweet. So
Yes,
sweet.
that was July of 23. So that
Yeah,
was the first time we saw each other after 3 years.
I know. I
Yeah.
know.
But that was a fun week. Fun week.
It was. Well, you were definitely one of my first mom friends. And I'll be honest, I didn't understand that term, mom friend. I didn't like the term mom friend. I didn't really get it until I had kids and I had you. Because, like you said, your son and my first son are 2 months apart. Your daughter and my second son are just a few months apart. So our husbands were working together. It's like we were doing all these life things together at the same time. And we had each other. Our families were far away, but we could relate to one another and we knew what we were going through. And I loved it. I loved having you. And then you moved. And I wasn't surprised that you moved. We all knew that it was coming. Um, but it still really, really sucked. Like it sucked when you moved. And there was a definite void in my life because before you moved, our family spent a lot of time together,
Mhm.
and you and I never really talked on the phone, but I knew that I could text you. I knew that we would hang out. You and I would exchange recipes. And I don't know, it was just like really close, even though we never talked on the phone. But I wasn't really sure what our relationship would look like once you moved away. Then, a month or two after you left, I was driving. Like, I remember how it felt. I know where I was sitting. I was driving to the daycare to pick up my two older sons, and the phone rang. And I looked and it said, Michelle Dallas. And I was confused. I was like, why is she calling me? Michelle's calling me? And then I was like, yes, Michelle's calling me. Like it just made sense. And it felt like our whole new long distance relationship started at that moment. And I was very, very happy and very thankful and late picking up my kids because I sat in the daycare parking lot and we talked for a little while. But
Mm.
why did you call me? It made me feel so special. Why did you call me though? Because we didn't have a phone relationship up to that point.
I called you, Cecilia, because you were definitely someone that I met and we shared so many things in common. And I felt like your friendship was a very genuine friendship. I was never judged, it was honest. We could talk about anything. And I felt like you truly understood all aspects of life. We were military wives, physician wives, we had kids the same age. We um, we often struggle with childcare and finding someone to watch our kids.
Whew.
We're both working moms, so we also had our own career to balance. And then on top of that, we also lived far away from family. And our parents are older, they were aging, dealing with some health struggles themselves. So we could relate to each other on,
Yeah.
on every aspect of life. And it's not too often that you find a friend that you have so much in common with.
Yeah.
You were definitely that friend.
Yeah. And I felt the same way. And that's why, like, again, you were talking about us parting ways, and I teared up because I remember how I felt. I felt so sad, but like trying to be tough and brave and excited for you. But I did feel so sad because we had so much in common. What did you think would happen to our friendship when you moved away?
I knew that that friendship was going to stay alive. And the
Oh,
reason that I knew that it was is because, a friendship is an investment. And when you meet someone who provides a quality friendship, you want that person to stay around forever. And
yeah.
just like we invest in, our personal health and our career, friendships is important and you invest in it. And it goes both ways. So I put in the same amount of energy and effort that you put in. And I think as a result of that, that's why it has worked since I moved away almost 4.5 years ago.
I know. I can't believe it's been that long. It does feel like a lot has happened since then, but I can't believe it's been that long. I
Time
can't.
goes by so fast, so fast,
Yeah.
so fast.
Yeah. What do you think what do you think keeps our friendship strong despite the distance?
Effort
Mhm.
and investment.
Yeah.
Birthdays. It's nice to get a birthday card from Cecilia. It's nice to get a birthday text. Christmas, Christmas comes around, and not only do you think about my kids, but you think about me, you think about my
Mhm.
husband. You, you send silly Instagram videos about, moms who are, reminds you of ourselves.
Yeah.
And um, I think it's the time and the investment that really keeps our friendship going. And I truly feel like every day I hear something about Cecilia simply because my husband is also friends with your husband and they talk every day.
Yeah.
So I feel like every day I hear something about Cecilia.
Hmm. I I'm glad you mentioned our husbands because I think that's a big part of it too. I mean, I have my girlfriends, Brian has his friends, but to find a couple or a family that you click with, and in our case, it's the whole daggone family, like our kids
Whole
too.
family. Whole family.
But for all of us to click is so special. And Brian really does like help hold me accountable in terms of our friendship. If he hasn't heard your name in a couple days, he's like, you need to call Michelle. You need to know what's going on with Michelle. You need to text Michelle. When are you talking to Michelle? And I'm asking him too, like, when's Tori coming to visit? Do I need to get the room ready? Is he staying here? Is he staying somewhere else? It's fun. I like the way all of our relationships work. So definitely our husbands being involved and then all the things you said that the intention behind it. It doesn't just happen accidentally, but I think we've both tried to put in the effort. I do.
I agree. And
Yeah.
it's 50, 50, 50, 50. It's very equal balance.
I think so too, but I do give you credit for like kickstarting the long distance part. Um, Part of it was when you left, I was pregnant again. So I had my youngest son, I don't know, a couple weeks after you
After we left.
left.
Mhm.
So I was busy with that new baby time of life, trying to figure all that out. And we had the two older kids. And I missed you, but I really just didn't even think in some ways to call you. You know, I was just busy. And then you broke through all of that and you were like, "All right, it's been a few weeks since you had that baby. It's time to
Mhm.
it's time to talk again."
I
So,
think for me as well, when we first got here to Anchorage, it was just us, and
mm,
I didn't have any other friends. I wasn't working at the time, so I was just with the kids, and you were my constant. You
yeah.
were my community. You were, the norm. And I wanted to keep it as normal as possible. So I made it a point to stay in contact with you
Yeah.
and text and call. And even now, if it's been a while since I've talked to you, I'll send you a message like, "Hey, Cecilia, my name's Michelle. I
I
live in
know.
Alaska. Do you remember me?"
Those are always the funniest messages. I'm like, "Dang it, it's been too long."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it's never any judgment. Never
I
any judgment.
know.
I understand. Life gets busy.
Yeah. Well, you've said so much good stuff already, but do you have any tips for friends who are navigating distance for the first time? And in our case, there's quite a bit of distance, but for some people, it's just you used to live next door and now you live across town. But do you have any suggestions for people who are navigating a long distance friendship?
I think the biggest tip that I could give is to communicate regularly.
Yeah.
Whatever form of communication that is, whether it's text, whether it's email, whether it is sending a holiday card, whether it is, just sharing a quick update on what the kids are doing, and really include it in your weekly activity. Maybe not
Yeah.
daily, but weekly activity. Make it a point to communicate. And I think that's the biggest tip. Another thing that I think is important is that you don't get to see each other often. So when you do see each other, you make it a point to spend as much time as possible. So, for
Yeah.
example, when we do talk, we always have to talk about four important things. We talk about work, we talk about the kids, and then we always have to ask each other, you got any trips planned? And I think the reason I ask that is because I'm thinking, is there any way we could maybe meet up with the Curtis family on one of
Yeah.
their trips? And as a result of that, I think that's what keeps it going.
Yeah. And it keeps it fun. We do all the business stuff, the stuff we have to talk about, the kids, the work, but the vacation stuff is fun for us. Yeah. What else? You got anything else?
When you coming to Alaska,
Oh, that was going to be my question. When can I come to Alaska? Yeah,
you know
hopefully
it,
this
it
summer.
it depends. The winter is also full of fun activities as
I'm not
well.
coming to Alaska in the winter. We can just take that off the table. I'm not coming to Alaska in the winter
In order to
from
truly
sunny
experience,
California.
in order to truly experience Alaska, I do think you should come at least one winter. One winter.
All right. Because I love you and you're my friend, I will consider it, but it is probably not going to happen. But I will consider it. I promise you I will. But I'm hoping we can get there this summer. I really am. That's
Okay.
something Brian and I have talked about. I just thought of some other tips, if you don't mind me sharing.
Oh, sure, sure.
I was thinking about um, just thinking about you and what's worked since you've been gone. I think when you left, I was sad. I really, truly was sad when you guys moved away. But I tried not to be too sad. Like, I wanted to at least show you that I was excited for you. And I was excited for you, but I was sad for me. So I tried to play up the excitement part instead of the sadness part. So I think that's important if you have a friend who's moving away, to not be so sad that the friend is sad too. Like,
Mhm,
it's okay to be in your feelings, but show the excitement part, because you guys were starting a really exciting new life, and I wanted to be excited with you.
mhm,
And then sad at home, but excited with you.
mhm,
And I also thought you talked about communication, but ask specific questions about the new life.
mhm,
Like, when you first got, I've never been to Alaska. And when you first got there, I didn't always know what to ask. Some of my questions were like, did you see a moose today? Or y'all got any ice yet? I mean, I didn't know what to ask. And
mhm.
then the more you had been there, I was like, oh, Alaska's just like life anywhere else. It's
Yep.
just, it just colder.
Nothing
It's just
stops.
colder.
Nothing stops.
Yeah.
Life, life is truly the same.
Yeah. Life is life. But I tried to ask what was new, what was different, what was the same. And then you talked about the investment. And I just want to talk about the investment piece a little bit more, because I think sometimes people think, well, investment has to be money or it has to be time. And you're a very generous person. You're generous with your time, generous with gifts. But like you said, it can be something as silly as an Instagram video or a text message that just reminds the other person, I haven't forgotten you. I still love you. I'm still here for you. I might be 3,000 miles away, but I still got you. Um, and then as you ended, make those plans to visit. I think the communication is nice for a season, but if you can't come back together at some point, it's tough on a friendship. So you just kind of drift. You drift over time. But you've invested in all those ways. Like, you guys have come to visit us. You love on our kids. You don't forget a birthday. I'm really terrible about birthdays, but you're not. Like, you're always great about those things. So thank you. You're great. You're absolutely
Thank you,
great.
Cecilia. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to get to Alaska this summer. Brian and I also have some other ideas about how we can travel together. So I will share those with you after we hang up. But I think we have some exciting stuff coming up in the next couple of months and years for sure.
Well, thank you, Cecilia. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to see you and talk with you. And I'm just so glad to be on the friendship journey with you. Very, very
Yay.
dear to my heart.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a great friend, whether near or far. I love you so much. And tell the whole family I said hi.
Will do. Take care, friend.
Okay. Take care.